Hello everyone, it's True Sustainability. I'm Brian with another episode. So, look at what we have going on here. This is a beautiful basil plant. Have you seen one so big and lush with all of these beautiful flowers and seeds coming off of it? This is amazing to me. The smell coming from this bush is so strong, and it was amazing because this started off in a little pot and it was dying. This plant was dying, and we cut off the dead, damaged part of the plant. We added nutrients to the soil, and then we watered it more frequently and changed the position of where the plant was in more of a shady area. And then it took off and came back to life, and it had to be transferred to a bigger pot, which was a 50-gallon container. And then now we've transplanted it into the ground. And this mother basil plant, with all its glory and beauty, has spread all over the place. And all of its seeds have come into the ground, and there's these beautiful little plants that are everywhere. So I've allowed these plants to grow on the ground and sprout up on their own, and I want that to be all over my whole entire yard. And the beautiful part about this is you can pluck it out at any age that you want. You can have a pot ready with some good soil, and then you can plant it up into there and share it with your friends or family, or be able to maybe sell some of those plants. The future of this garden and this backyard urban homestead is that we're going to do similar things to this. So I want to have more herbs and more spices, and then grow them up into planters, and then when they're nice and big and beautiful and healthy, transplant them into the soil, and then let them grow wild and grow all over the place. So if you can see here, here's a weed that's growing in the ground, but this provides ground cover. And I want to have a more wild food forest system where I'm going to build it up from the ground and build it up into canopies and into a medium-sized environment with shrubs and bushes and all of these things providing life and providing food for my family. So this is the idea of a food forest and sustainability. You want to start with things that you know and let Mother Nature kind of take its course in some ways. I do take out some of the weeds, but these particular ones are beautiful, and they also just spread out and provide a lot of ground cover that takes down the temperature when it's really hot like it is now, and provides a really good base. Also some wild grasses, different things like that that you can start out with, and have a more Mother Nature loving system where she's going to try to make it into a forest, and you're going to make it as productive as you possibly can with multiple species that work well in your environment. So let's go ahead and move on. So this beauty right here is really, really good for the bees and the other pollinators, and it is good for the nectar loving little hummingbirds that come in to feed on this. They love to feed on these flowers. They're nice and beautiful. They're orange and yellow and red. I love the vibrancy of the colors here. Also, when this started out, it was a lot smaller, and from the center it was kind of flattened out, and I went ahead and tied it up and got it to kind of come up on itself, so where now it's more of a bush instead of a flat growth here. So I'm really proud of that. Also, this here right next to us, this started off in a planter as well as in previous videos. This is putting off new growth all the time. On a weekly basis, there's more new growth coming off of this tree. I'm not entirely certain at this point that it is what we thought it was going to be. It has not put off any flowers or anything like that. So we're going to have to stay tuned and see what happens. This was grown from a seed. So the idea and where we got it from was from my mother-in-law, and we think that it is a green apple tree, but we're not sure at this point. So we'll see when it starts to bud and give off flowers what the flower pattern is, and if it matches up with that green apple tree. So we'll give it some time. This is like 4 or 5 times the size of what it was when it started. So it's beautiful, lush, green. It's been taken care of. It's doing really well. So if you want to follow me here, this is the kumquat tree that's putting off new branches. It looks like it's dying, but it's not. This is what it looks like when it is kind of in its dormant stage, and it needs to have leaf growth come back to it, which probably will be in the springtime when it's not so hot. So I'm going to give it some time, see if that comes back. It did have to be transplanted, so it may have a transplant shock for a while. These here are goji berry bushes. They have a lot of fruit on them, and I'm really proud of how much fruit comes off of these, but it's in a struggle right now because it's in the shade. I have 4 more of these goji berry bushes down the line here, and then I have 10 more goji berries that are actually in the sun, and we'll show you the difference of what it makes when it's in the correct environment. But these goji berry bushes are not lost, not by any means. I want these to grow up into the sun, and so they will have to push themselves up and adapt to this shade environment, and then hopefully they'll get tall and big and they'll start to fill in. But these are very fruitful. As you can tell, there's just an abundance of these goji berry fruits setting on this plant. So let's go ahead and move on. This is our fig tree, one of 2 fig trees that we have here. This is getting to be way bigger than when it started. So this is thickened up. The trunk is like 3/4 to an inch thick, as opposed to what it was before, which was very, very thin. And now it's starting to take off, and all these new onsets of leaves and branches are coming from the bottom. I was pruning these pretty heavily from the bottom, but what I've noticed is that this particular tree, for the fig tree, it wants to grow from the bottom and grow out and up. And so I'm allowing those branches to grow from the bottom, so then it can start to even out and not lean so much to one direction or another because of how heavy it is from the top. So be mindful of how your trees grow, and you know what they really need. So in the wind and everything like that, these are so flexible that they actually will bend all the way almost down to the ground in these earlier stages. And I don't want that to happen anymore. I want these to be strong and healthy and thicken up on their trunk area so that they can not move quite as much. So this is about 3 times the size it was when we started. You can see in previous videos of where it was, and this is just taking off. Hopefully by the next season we'll have a bunch of fig fruit to be able to take off of this. So let's go ahead and go over here. So this is the next one that we have. We had a nice peach harvest from this. This is the tropical white peach, and it has kind of stayed in its same growth rate. It's gone a little bit and put off a little bit of new growth, but for the most part it's been just tolerating the heat, and it also gave a fruit set, as you could see in one of my previous videos, that we had a harvest from it. So now it needs to concentrate on growth, and I expect that this will grow more over the course of time, and probably by next year it'll be putting off new branches and growing a little bit more, because it's not focusing on producing fruit right now. So Let's go ahead and move on. So right here is going to be our yellow peach. It has put off new little branches, but it hasn't got any taller than what it was when we first got it. Maybe a little bit taller, maybe by 4 inches or so. But what's really good about this is all these little branches that are coming out from the original branches. That means it's going to start sprouting new leaves. It's going to start branching out and getting thicker and kind of getting acclimated to where it's at. So this is beautiful. It's doing well. And then right behind me, we have our cactus. And this is the Nepal cactus, where we can take off different parts of the cactus here, the cactus leaves, as you would call it, or the pods, and be able to harvest those and eat them. But when this started, it was about as big as one of these smaller ones. I cut off some of the pods, and then I planted them back into the ground so that we would have a more thick, lush cactus Nepal to be able to harvest from. So these have grown quite a bit and putting off new pods of their own from these littler ones. So it's doing really well and absorbing all the nutrients and becoming taller and taller and bigger. So this will be a nice food source as well once they grow up. Now, what we have here is our aloe vera plant. And in my first video, I was trying to show, it wasn't very good on the video, but I was trying to show what these aloe vera plants look like. And I've added since to this arrangement here of aloe vera. And I wanted to touch base on this because if you're from Arizona, you understand that cactus is, kind of important to our environment in the desert. And what I've noticed and observed over time with this aloe vera is that it really does not like extra water. It does not like extra water from the hose. It's looking for water from a monsoon season that's coming from Mother Earth and giving back to the plants the nutrients that it needs. So it takes off and grows and gets green, and it's gone up about 3 or 4 inches from when the monsoon weather had been. So it gathers all its nutrients and everything that it needs from the water from the monsoon. So you barely have to water this. If you water it too much, it's gonna turn brown and it's gonna be unhealthy. So we just wanna put a little bit of water every so often on these and let them do their thing. And they'll get nice and big and lush and fill in this whole space. So let's go over here. And this is the other fig tree. It's also growing really well, but it's not quite as thick. It was planted at the same time as the other fig tree, but it's just not taking off quite as well. But it just needs a little bit more time, and it will come in and it will start to grow in more thick. Like I said, I think the problem that was going on with these is that I was pruning them too much and taking off the little branches. Now I'm gonna just let them set in with their branches and watch them grow and get thicker and more healthy. So let's go ahead and move on over here. This is where we have all of the wild basil plants that are nice and beautiful and have just been taking off everywhere. I'm just letting them grow. They're spreading all over the yard, and how beautiful are they? So, when you want to do something wild, nature takes its course, and sometimes it comes out really, really beautiful. So, let's go ahead and go this direction. So this is the Pink Lady apple, and the other one over there is going to be the Beverly Hills apple. And what I want to tell you is that not everything goes according to plan, and you do all you can to get things to come back. But don't be discouraged, because even if something doesn't work out, you have a bunch of other things that can work out and they can produce a lot for you, and they can come lush and green. I have put soil amendments into these. I have tried to water them more frequently. I have tried to do everything I can to save them. The only thing that I haven't done at this point is provided an extra shade structure for these trees. And that's the last thing that I'm going to try. If they don't come back after that, they've tried to put off new growth, but it seems to just dry out before it can even do anything. So I just want you to understand that some of the plants that you choose may not be suitable for the environment that you have. You may have to take them out and put in something different. But this is only 2 trees out of 32 trees that are doing really well. So you do the math, 30 out of 32, that's really, really good numbers. So let's go ahead and move on. So this is one of the smaller plants that was in here with the two, with the lemongrass and the red riding hood. These grow really well together, as I've stated in the previous video. This is one of the smaller ones that's grown double the size, and I'm really proud of that. But also we have the Mexican lime tree right next to it, and that's grown 4 times the size since we put it in. So it's really doing well, putting off new branching, and it's really good for this environment. So let's go ahead and go over here. And I want you to come over in this direction to see the beauty of what is going on here. So these desert type flowers are taking off. We had a really good experience with these flowers where we had one flower before, and it was the exact same one as the one here that has the white and the pink in the center, and it took off in another portion of our homestead. And so we decided to go get more, and these, since they've been in the ground a very, very small amount of time, maybe a month or so, they have doubled in size. And so that's impressive, and they stay throughout the whole year in this environment. So they love the hot, they love the direct sun, and they're super beautiful. Now this one is huge and putting off the seed pods from the lemongrass. So this lemongrass could potentially spread throughout the area as well if those seed pods come off and spread around. So this is the next biggest one. You can see these nice big cattails on this plant of the red riding hood, and it's going up tall. Now come over this way and look at this giant beast here with the same exact plant, and it's growing and it's making that height that I want because it blends with the rock of the waterfall, and it just gives it a nice contrast between the rocks and everything from the waterfall. So the plants over there are going to be the popos and the cacti that we put in. Those are doing well in their environment. They're kind of branching out and cascading like I wanted to. Now let's look over here at these goji berry bushes. So you can see a dramatic difference in the goji berries because these have full sun. They have grown double to triple the size. They've also grown outward double the size. So if you want to look all the way down, you'll see my 10 plants down the way of how beautifully that they've grown in. And those have been planted within about 6 months, maybe less, of when those have been actually planted. So how much growth that those have actually had in a short period of time is amazing. So if you want to come back over here, this is my male pistachio tree. It's putting off new growth finally. It took a little while for it to actually put off a new branch and to put off new leaves, but I found out what was going on with it. I loosened up the soil and had it drain more, and then now this is starting to grow. The male is not as good as the female. if you want to follow me over to the female, this one has grown a lot more. So if you see the female of the pistachio, it is really, really, really nice. It's starting to get thick. There's new branches. If you can see down at the graft point, this has thickened up quite a bit, about a ½ inch thick or so down at the base of that, and it is just taking off. So there are some dry spots because it hasn't completely filled in, but we're gonna keep taking care of it, keep giving it water, and it's gonna shoot up just like my other plants here. So right here we have the mandarin orange. This is getting really lush and big. The bottom base of this is about 2 inches in diameter, and it is really taking the branches and spreading them out and making a nice canopy. I expect when it gets to about 6 feet or so, which should be within the next couple of years, then it will put off a nice canopy that will provide some shade, and we might plant some things around here so that they are like more liking the shade portion instead of being in direct sun. So let's go ahead and move on. This is going to be the all-in-one almond. This one has put off new growth as well, but it's kind of slowed down because of the heat, because of all the different temperature changes. It's kind of slowed down a bit, but it has still grown. The new growth has come out and the new leaves, and I suspect by springtime this will branch out and become really lush and possibly put off a little bit more height when we get to that point. So now we have our other lime, the Mexican lime, and this one was really skinny when it started and didn't have too many branches coming off of it. It's starting to fill in and get thicker, which is exactly what it needed to do. So that's also doubled, maybe tripled in size since what I put it into the ground. So now we have this other all-in-one almond. It has a little bit of a slight curve to it. I've been staking it and pulling it over and straightening it out, so it's now probably as straight as it's going to be. And this one has a lot more new growth on it than the other one. New branches coming up at the top, and it's splitting out and starting to grow out big. So the bottom of this base here has actually gotten thicker as well. So this is the tour of what I got going on right now. Everything's growing really well, and stay tuned for future videos where we'll give updates, and I'll be putting in new plants, and we'll be discussing different things with experts and having videos on climate change and all of those things. So if you like my videos, if you like the content that I got going on here, like my videos, share them with your friends, subscribe, and remember, you are the change. You are sustainability. Have a wonderful day.